What drug will you never touch again and why? Ambien. Was prescribed Ambien because I wasn't sleeping during a rough time in my life. I woke up in my truck parked in the driveway, with the keys in the ignition. No idea what happened. Did I sleepwalk, drive? Did I hurt anyone? Scared me so bad I never took it again. Heroin. Just hit 10 years clean a couple days ago. Now if only I could kick nicotine. Edit. I am overwhelmed by the outpouring of support. Big love to you all. Thank you so much to everyone that has commented and gifted awards. I am genuinely touched. Congratulations to everyone in this thread for fighting the good fight. I believe in you. Alcohol or cocaine. I used and abused them for a solid 15 years of my adult life. Lost a house, my partner, and had a web of lies I hated being tangled in. So October 3rd, 2017 I entered a 5-week inpatient rehab facility and haven't touched them since. Cocaine. It doesn't do anything for me except make me want more cocaine. I don't feel any more energetic or alert. I don't feel a sense of euphoria. I don't get anything out of it except the desire to do more cocaine. Meth. Never wanted to do it, but was led to believe it was MDMA. Had a great time at the party, and didn't really notice till it was long over. The GF and I had an hours-long, heartfelt convo, after which we were like, "Ah, nice night. It must be morning. Let's go to bed." To our horror it was already 2 p.m. And we slowly realized as sleep continued to elude us that we had actually been eating meth all night. We didn't manage to sleep until about midnight or so. Yikes. In retrospect we were actually acting like twacked out gremlins the whole time. You always wonder how meth heads think they're acting totally normal. And I'm here to tell you that it felt totally normal at the time. But no, not normal. Inhalants. My number one choice was air duster. I know it seems silly but believe me, the high is very real. The stuff is dangerous as fuck. Very addictive. And really easy to get a hold of and use. I'm surprised it's not 1. More popular to misuse and 2. More heavily regulated. If this is your first time hearing about it, don't try it. It's the same high as nitrous but with a nasty flavor and a ton more danger. Inhalants are a nightmare that a lot of people never wake up from. Salvia. Delivered what it promised. And it was a bit too much for me. Nicotine. I smoked 2 packs a day for almost 10 years and finally broke free about a year ago. Never again. I know this isn't what you mean. But Quells. A motion sickness tablet. Which is hyoscine, aka scopolamine. Derived from Atropa belladonna and Hyoscyamus niger. 2 well-known hallucinogens. For most people, this is no problem. But I'm in the small proportion of very sensitive people who get hallucinations from it. That was a very weird trip through the Lake District and I never want to do it again. At least with peyote I knew what was coming my way. Spice, synthetic weed. I had a kidney stone a few years ago and in the before they discharged me they gave me a few Percocets. It was the most pain I've ever been in so I happily took it and hopped in my girlfriend's car for the ride home. Now I've heard the term, projectile vomit, and I generally thought, sure, maybe a couple feet of splash zone. But here we are on the highway and I feel something bubble and know something terrible is about to happen. I demand she pull over and as we're still slowing down and I'm trying to force my mouth towards the slowly opening window. It begins. The ricochet off the glass splashed back to the driver's seat. I can still hear my girlfriend's screams. What made it out the window cleared the shoulder of the highway. I feel like I could have hit the basket from an NBA regulation 3-point line. It wasn't just a little bit of vomit either. No. This was the purge that was years in the making. It felt like my stomach went full alien and just rocketed out my mouth to get this drug as far as imaginably possible out of my body. And the waves. I kept thinking it was over and then somehow more would come. I cried between rockets of vomit and then cried more. It was the most traumatic thing my body has ever done to me. When it ended I was on all fours on the side of the highway. Crying while trying to internalize the havoc that pill caused. I turned around to see my girlfriend crying too and knew we'd never recover from this. The cleaning bill alone could total her 2009 Toyota Camry. Never again. League of Legends. Fentanyl. 3 years clean in 3 days. Edit. We made it. Alcohol. One day beer and liquor just started hardcore fucking with my stomach, and I don't really care about the social aspect of it, so no more for me. Ginger beer for the win. Meth. That shit is bad for you. Heroin. I lost just about everything. 12 years sober and I couldn't be happier. Cocaine. I've only tried it one time, but I fucking hated it. My heart was pounding 1,000 miles per hour. I couldn't stop talking about random bullshit. And I never really experienced any real euphoria that I've heard other people talk about. It just felt like caffeine times 100. I'll stick with weed. You guys can have it. LSD. We had our fun. I never had a bad trip. And I don't see myself having any valuable new experience by doing it again. But boy did we fly. Lol, damn, this comment got traction. Happy trails y'all. Whippets. When I was in college I would sit at home alone. Smoke a ton of weed. And inhale nitrous. The high was completely mind and body numbing and would only last about a minute. I would go through a whole box of canisters in a night. Sometimes more. I noticed that while sitting on the couch my head would float back during the high. So one night a little before graduation I got curious and set up my phone to record myself. I was fucking horrified. My mouth hung open. My body just slumped. It looked like a mini version of the crackhead lean. Seeing myself like that made me throw the whipped cream dispenser and all my remaining canisters out. I strongly believe it gave me brain damage. I swear I was better at remembering my words before I started doing that shit. For what it's worth, the first time I did poppers I felt the exact same. So I stay away from that shit too. Ether. Tried it once and it felt like downing 2 liters of cheap vodka while someone hits the back of your head with a sledgehammer. Once tried crack. Knew right there and then that a second time would lead me down a path of no return. Xanax. Ruined my life for 2 years. Very almost burned every bridge I had ever made. Almost ruined my family's life through borrowing money. Still in debt for 1K but haven't touched M in over a year, and I am in such a better place now than I ever thought possible while I was on M. I would not do any drugs available on the street. There is too much a risk today that they are laced with fentanyl. Sertraline made me feel like a damn robot. Not myself. Never again. All of them. I went sober 11 years ago. So I will never use recreational drugs again. Fentanyl, heroin, OxyContin. Basically any opiates. I went from a $160,000 per year career. Living in a 3-story luxury townhouse to homeless living in a tent on the streets. Robbing and stealing to support my habit. It all started out from doing some yayo and oxys when I was 15 years old. Now I'm 30 years old sitting in a treatment center, rehab, trying to start my life all over again. For the 4th time. Will I do that shit again? IDK. But I'm gonna make damn fucking sure that I try my best to never touch that shit again. Benzos. Was on them for the last few years due to spiked anxiety and severe depression. Several deaths in the family in a very short period of time. Having been on various forms. Valium. Klonopin. Xanax. I became dependent on Klonopin to help me feel normal. Stimulate my appetite. Provide uninterrupted sleep. And basically to just face the day. I had taken breaks, a couple weeks at a time. Before finally stopping their usage due to feedback from my family. Such as basically being like an unresponsive zombie in most situations. 2 weeks go by. It isn't a big deal. By week 4 I was in the throes of some of the deepest depression I had ever felt. The scariest part, though? The weird issues in just processing normal things. It was like my brain would just stop working and I'd freeze. I couldn't process what was being said to me. I couldn't retain anything. Just had these frustrating moments where nothing made sense and I couldn't articulate anything. So bizarre. Never want to go back there. I greatly miss the benefits. Though. Xanax. Ruined my potential. And possibly my life. I, 22M, started taking it when I was 12 and almost immediately got hooked on it. At first I only had access to 5 milligrams yellow football-looking pills, which I took 5 to 6 of spaced out throughout the day. Every day. For an unknown number of years. I think 3, maybe 4. But as time and my addiction progressed, Xanax became popular and suddenly everyone was taking it. And suddenly there was much more variety to the kinds of Xanax I could take. And I took them all. I'd tell you more, but I honestly can't remember. In fact, I can't remember anything at all from the age of 13 all the way to 17. And my memory to this day can be really foggy at times because of Xanax. Xanax took my childhood from me too. I was depressed and suicidal at the time because of my brother passing away, and I started cutting myself frequently. It was bad, but Xanax made everything much worse. And I would have died during this time. But I didn't. Well, a part of me did. Weed. Ended up in some sort of psychosis not once, but twice. Both times were horrifying hours that felt like eternity. And every second was filled with paranoia and unfathomable fear. I was a passenger of my own body and mind. Benadryl. Mainly because I have jumping legs and it makes it way worse. Edit. I'm just talking about 25 mg tablet. Can even do one. Work. It didn't make me happy. Caused severe panic attacks. It didn't pay enough. And I hated life. I will never take work again. Alcohol. 5 years sober and it just isn't worth going back to being a slave to liquor. Weed. I just can't do it. It makes me super paranoid and jittery. Weed. Used it as a teenager in excess and it eventually gave me auditory, visual hallucinations, and as I abused it, they poured over into my sober self. Not considered a bad drug by most people. But there are definitely a few people that shouldn't do it. Venlafaxine. They had me on it for depression, anxiety. It worked, but it fucked my stomach. During COVID I ran out because I was having issues getting appointments and refills. The withdrawals were insane. My husband had to pick me up and take me home from work. It was awful and lasted days. They put me on something more mild after that. Been sober, alcohol, for 10 months as of yesterday. Best 10 months of my life. Getting in trouble was literally the best thing that ever happened to me. I didn't understand how many people cared about me because I was drunk. Turns out I have a massive support network that I didn't even realize and took what I did know I had for granted. My family life has improved drastically. My work relationships have improved. Every aspect of my life is better now. Wasted my entire young adult life drinking myself to death. And I'll never go back. I did the cocaine thing in my early 20s and I never got why people liked it so much. I was able to quit that without thinking twice. Smoked weed on occasion and never really felt drawn to it. But alcohol. Shit. It was game over the minute I started drinking, and I'm so thankful to be alive right now. Because I was on a fast track to killing myself in my last few years drinking. It's amazing how your life can just fall together when you quit the stuff. Thankfully I didn't cause myself or my relationships any more harm while I was drinking. I consider myself lucky and I'm grateful for everything and everyone in my life. DMT. It was magical and I believe there is more to see, but spiritually I feel very guilty for having tried it. We dump that stuff into our head when we die and it feels like a gift from the other side. I am in no way religious, but I'm not arrogant enough to say there's nothing more than our existence. A couple days later I felt like a kid who spoiled Christmas by looking at his presents early. I used to work in a county jail, so I've seen the effects on PPL of a lot of the drugs mentioned. Probably the worst one I ever saw was a guy got picked up for possession. He had a vanilla extract bottle with dip in it. Dip is PCP. Formaldehyde or whatever to dip a cigarette and then smoke it. Well, old dude drank the contents of the bottle rather than take a possession charge. Long story short, this dude's insides essentially start to liquefy. He was leaking blood and other fluids from his lower orifices. He was brought to the hospital where the doctors couldn't do anything for him. He lingered for about 3 days before he died. Edibles. Horrific visuals. Whispers coming from nowhere. Felt like I was living inside a tornado. And eventually spent about 24 hours straight trying to tie myself to my bed because I thought I was going to fall into the sky. Took me 3 days to fully come down. Never again. Also, Riddiman. Got really into the idea of taking speed after watching Quadrophenia as a teenager. Bought some from a kid I went to school with. Took it. And it did nothing. I thought I was going to dance like a madman. Go a little crazy. And be able to pull off some crazy jackass level stunts. But it just made me super relaxed. All I wanted to do was clean my room and read a book. It also kinda messed up my hearing. I'm still not sure what I took was even Ritalin. 774 days sober of alcohol, so that'd be my choice. Oxy. That shit gave me the most peaceful 24 hours ever. I see how people get addicted. I'll never touch it again. Cocaine. It's a fucked up drug. Whenever I'd be completely shit-faced and about to vom from too much alcohol, I'd do a couple lines and be able to drink more without vomiting. But then I'd drink too much again and need to do a couple more lines. It's a vicious cycle. A part of my life I'm very ashamed of. Weed. I have depersonalization and I heard it can trigger it, make it worse. Phonics. Got hooked on it when I was young. I'm nearly 30 now and I still feel the effects in my day-to-day life. Shrooms and/or LSD. No one told me about SSRIs causing them to not work, so I spent $40 to eat some nasty-ass shrooms that didn't work. Penicillin. Allergic reaction. Alcohol. I break out in handcuffs. Meth. Don't fucking do it. Spice. It's terrible. I smoked it one time to try to help with my withdrawal symptoms and it immediately made it worse. Never again will I touch it. I've also had friends addicted to it and it made them very sick. From bleeding internally to psychosis. It's super dangerous. I never understood how people loved it so much. Cocaine. Went on a year-long bender at 21. Couch surfing and connecting dealers and buyers. Tried cocaine for the first time in a Walmart parking lot off my buddy's center console in his car. Remember walking around the Walmart trying to find a tire pressure gauge and just thinking to myself, damn, I feel like I just drank 4 Red Bulls. I am so awake. And then I came down. And realized why it's such a shit drug. The effect is the same as 4 Red Bulls. But the immediate withdrawals and craving sensation is 10x worse than anything I'd ever felt before. For the next year, I existed purely to consume cocaine. I sold pot. Sold my belongings on eBay or other quick trade apps. Even sold one of my vehicles that was given to me as a gift. From the moment I woke up to the moment I crashed, I was fiending hard. A year later, my friend group got into some serious crime. And I stayed out of it. They got caught. And are all still in prison 5 years later. My plug vanished off the earth. Along with all my other connections. Since everyone thought I snitched, after all I am the only one not in jail, right? I remember laying on a mattress in a family member's loft. And my aunt came to visit me and just said, damn man, you look like shit. Black sunken eyes. Skinny as shit. Severely bony cheeks. Ratty hair. Hadn't showered in days. Just been laying on that mattress playing Skyrim and eating ramen. Riding out the withdrawals. All for the same effect of 4 Red Bulls basically. Haven't touched it in 5 years. And I am far removed from that lifestyle. The only drugs I consume now are alcohol after dinner. And caffeine in the morning. Fuck cocaine. Psychedelics in general. Nothing much bad to say about them. But I got what I needed out of them at this point. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop a like. If you would like to see more content like this in the future, subscribe and turn on notifications to be notified about future videos. Now check out one of these interesting videos.